meant crewing up, scheduling, bidding, forecasting all of the work and all that kind of stuff. I think I did a good job. They're really happy with me on it. But with that promotion to supervisor, I had a coordinator. So I was no longer the coordinator. I was now the supervisor. Day to day, I would not look at footage at all or, any shots whatsoever. And I was just living in spreadsheets and schedules and numbers, basically. And even though it was really interesting and it was good to get that experience, and I don't think I screwed it up too bad, I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I was so stressed. There was so much pressure because, they're just like, watch the storyboards. Tell us how many days you think all this work is going to take.
Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of How Do You End Up Doing That with me, Alex Jeffers. 10 episodes. That's 10 whole weeks I've been doing this for, which has been, it's quite a successful run, I think, so far. Quite a lot of interesting guests on here to date, and hopefully we'll keep going with more interesting guests. But 10 whole episodes. Of course, number 10 is the one that I deliver slightly late because I was away over the weekend and didn't manage to edit this one in time. But still within the week. But episode 10. Wow. This week we are speaking to Deborah Price, or Deb. She works as a production coordinator for Aardman Animation, the people behind Wallace and Grommit, Chicken Run, Curse of the Were. No, well, that Curse of the Were Rabbit was Wallace and Grommit, wasn't it? But they've done lots of other things. Morph was one of their original creations. So they've done loads of really cool stuff. They're based over in Bristol, and Deb has worked there for a little while now. I really wanted to speak to Deb because a lot of people, when they think of film on TV, they think of the people on the screen, they think of the actors, they think of the directors and the people whose names appear, in the opening credits. But they might not necessarily think so much about the people who work much more behind the scenes, the actual intricate, nitty-gritty, getting their hands dirty and organising a lot of the stuff, that the administration that goes into the making of film and television. And that's where Deb has got a lot of experience and a lot of expertise, and I thought she'd be a great person to chat to kind of share some of that knowledge with us. And I also think she's got a pretty good story as well about how she ended up getting there. In the podcast, we chat a little bit about episode 3 and episode 6, one with Joe Latham, who works as a graphic novelist, and the episode with Tony Hassett, who is a fibrous plasterer who's worked on some film sets. You don't have to listen to those before you listen to this, but if you are interested in more creative kind of endeavors, maybe you might want to check those ones out as well, just to get a bit of a background. I won't go on for too much longer, so let's dive into our conversation with Deb. Cheers. What is the deal with the Black Room? Like, just
With the goth office.
the goth office.
The gothfice. Yeah.
Can we call it the gothfice?
100% we can. I'm pretty sure other people have called it the gothfice because I always introduce it as the goth office.
Okay.
Which is, my boyfriend is a financial controller. He has like a proper real grown-up job.
Okay.
Whereas I'm just doing wherever I want, and he's making sure that we're not like on the street. But it is fun. So even though the walls are black, you've got like vinyls on the wall. There's a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles memorabilia in here.
Okay.
Like a lot.
Above your left shoulder, is that Spider-Man? No, your other side.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
That is the Intergalactic soundtrack, which is a film. A series on Netflix, which DNEG, my last studio, worked on, and some of our good friends worked on. So.
Oh, okay.
It's a Kid Cudi TV like animated drama, and he did I think he voices the main character, and he did the soundtrack for it. So we got the vinyl, and when we finally see our friends who worked on it, we'll get them to sign it probably. Because our house has just become a shrine to the things I've worked on, which is very sweet.
I think that's lovely, especially as you've worked on quite a lot of things. yeah, well, I, there's very few like cool stuff that I've worked on, so I don't really have any memorabilia. I think the shelves above my desk are mostly taken up with the kids' medals and certificates and things that they've brought me with pretty pictures like this. Um, who's that?
Oh my gosh, is that
It's
you?
it's me.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, so cute. I mean, technically, you made the kids, so
True,
they're
true.
your biggest projects.
They are my biggest project to date, and the one that I'm both most proud of and
Yeah.
most sort of concerned with the progress. Am I hitting the deadlines? Are things going to plan?
Only time will tell.
Ooh, who knows? Anyway, cheers for coming on the podcast, Deb.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. It's been yeah, it's been quite a while. Could you kind of introduce what it is you do?
Sure thing. So I currently my role title, official role title is Senior VFX Production Coordinator, which is basically just I'm a coordinator and I probably should have gone up to a like producer or manager by now, but I have actually like I was at that level and I decided to take a side slash backward step, which we could talk about a bit more later. I'm working at Aardman Animations in Bristol, which is so freaking cool. I love it. It's so great. It was a huge like I used to tell people one day I'd love to work for Aardman. And it was always like my kind of realistic dream goal, but you know, like your dream goal being, I want to work for Pixar in America as someone who comes from South Wales. Aardman was always kind of achievable, but you never really knew if you were going to be any good, you know, and how your career would go and stuff. But yes, at the current moment in time, I am a senior VFX production coordinator on a Wallace and Gromit film.
That's pretty interesting because yeah, you did some work recently on Chicken Run,
Chicken Run 2, Dawn of the Nugget,
Dawn of the
plug.
Nugget.
It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
It was great. The kids did love it. I don't know why I said it with that inflection. They
I
did.
know.
They did love it. I remember showing them, and they loved it. There was what film did you watch recently? Oh, we went to see Migration in the cinema, and
Oh, the ducks. I
they
need to
do,
see that.
they liked it, but they found it scary at the start.
Mm.
I can't remember. I can't remember if they found any bits of Dawn of the Nugget scary, but they are quite easily scared children.
I
Um,
mean, they did want to eat the main characters in Dawn of the Nugget. So there's definitely like the
yeah,
end sequence, I think, could be potentially quite creepy.
yeah. I think because we're vegetarian and the kids eat mostly vegetarian food in the house, they don't really make that association with chicken. But when they do, when we go out, when we go to like McDonald's or whatever, they will have chicken nuggets, and then I
Mm.
think that at that point they're like, oh, isn't it funny how there's chicken the food and chicken the animal? Ooh, yeah.
Coincidence, kid. Yeah.
One looks weird like a bird, the other one tastes delicious.
I mean,
Then
that's basically Chicken Run 1 and Chicken Run 2
yeah.
in a nutshell. I won't quote the film.
But there's there's morals there. I feel like
Mhm.
much stronger morals than maybe a man putting on the wrong trousers. But I
Oh,
do
yeah, I mean,
equally love Wallace and Gromit was such a big part of my childhood every Christmas that I
me
feel
too.
like yeah, it's part of so many people's childhood, and the thinking that you might work there one day, I guess, is crazy, especially from a child's point of view. I remember as a child, the places I wanted to work, apart from the really ridiculous ones, included the record shop in the middle of town.
Oh, Spillers?
No, so I grew up in Bridgend.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And there was a record shop called the Jungle, and I was like, that's where I want to work when I grow up because I
Yeah.
love music and I love being in music shops, and like that seems so cool. And then it closed down because
Oh, sad times.
streaming existed, and you know. But yeah, sorry, Aardman. It's very cool. It's very very cool. So yeah, I guess we can go down the steps of how'd you get into that.
How'd you get into that? You need a jingle.
Yeah, probably something else other than the lo-fi beats that I got as a royalty-free track off Invato. Let's go back to school. Leaving school,
Mm.
what was your kind of
Mm.
come out of school, A levels, GCSEs, maybe? What
Yeah.
what were your qualifications?
So I remember in school being like super duper into art, and when the teachers would say to you, what do you want to do when you leave school? You'd be like, yeah, something with art. But
Yeah.
one thing that I've thought about a lot since and working in this industry is just like how little representation there was at school at that level, and even at university courses for like what actual jobs there were that was a viable like employment option. Because when you're in school and they're teaching you art, it's basically like get a thing, get a vibe, and become an artist and do art that goes into museums. And that's just not, that is like, 0.5% of people make a life that way. But anyway, I digress. I've always wanted to go back to my school or a school and just be like, yo guys, here's a list of jobs that are actual like titles with a wage
I,
month to month.
I feel like the kind of the understanding of the creative industries in schools must have come, like, it must have improved by now,
I
surely.
hope so. I really hope so. I remember doing my A levels. So I did A levels in art like you do, and I think design technology as well. I also took law just because you had to have three, and my friends were doing law. I think I got a E in law, so we just forget about law. But I applied for so after A levels in art, I applied for a set design course at the University of Wales, Newport, I guess it was at the time. Oh no, at the Atrium in Cardiff.
Oh, okay. So set designers in like theatre backdrops and TV.
Exactly that.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, because I loved theatre and I thought, if I wasn't going to be on the stage, I'd love to be working as part of a production like that. So
yeah.
I made a portfolio for set design. I went and I had my interview at the Atrium, and I remember them looking at my portfolio and just being like, "Yeah, this is really good, but I think you need to develop these skills a bit more."
Oh, okay.
And here's this foundation diploma in Treforest, which I'm pretty sure another one of your podcast peoples also did.
Oh, Joe?
Um, yes, Joe.
Joe, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when I was listening to his episode, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is like very similar up until this point." So yeah, I did the foundation course, obviously angling to pad out my set design portfolio to get onto that degree course. And I remember you do the modules, right, where you try a little bit of everything. And the animation module,
Okay.
I just remember being this total like euphoric, like moment,
Yeah,
just being like, oh my God, why didn't I think of this before? Animation, yes, those films are made by people. Those films don't just poof into existence. Like there's a whole bunch of people that make those films. And I do remember really fondly that time of just like being in the library, poring over all these art of animation, all the Disney books, and like even all the way back to people like Lottie Reiniger who did these silhouette films, like, you know, just really absorbing everything and just loving the what felt like the discovery of it all for me. So I focused on animation,
mhm.
and then I applied for the degree in Newport, which was really great. And I did that degree, and do you know what? I was all right at animation.
Yeah.
I could do it.
Hmm.
Uh, I was pretty good at it.
Okay.
I was not the best.
Right.
Um, like I could draw, but there's people out there who are animators and artists, people like Joe, who are just like so passionate about what they're drawing and they just can't stop drawing and all they want to do is draw and create and hone their craft and stuff. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, I used to kind of draw mainly as like a gift or like a birthday card. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Do you
Uh,
not? Well, I suppose if if you're making stuff that you enjoy making in your day job, it's not as so that stupid phrase, enjoy what you do, and you'll never work a day in your life. That's ridiculous because if you enjoy what you do, you end up working really, really hard at something all of the time
I'm burning out.
and burning out. Yes. I'd say that was a better, it's better to be in that creative role and do those things that you enjoy, even if you're not as dedicated to it as maybe some other people. If you enjoy it and you can make money from it, then great, go for
Win
it.
win.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So it moved into the production side. You were more interested in production side of it than the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we were at uni, they would try and they encourage you to do group projects and like assume like a director role or the designer role or the scriptwriter role, that kind of stuff. And that's when I first did as a production manager. And I've always enjoyed talking to people. Like I'm a super social person. And then doing the production side of things, my tutor was just like, I think you're really good at this. Like you could definitely, like when you graduate, if you're struggling to find jobs as an artist, defo take like a production assistant role because you'd be good at it. So to me, who's someone who's quite logical, I was like, yeah, that sounds great because that's a more tangible job. You've got the experience, you've got the skills needed. Whereas when you're an artist, it's kind of like, are you the right fit for it a bit more than it would be?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
It's the stylistic kind of interpretation and the so subjective,
Oh,
artistic. Are you willing to put yourself out there and be constantly rejected?
totally. Oh my gosh, yeah. And that's it's something that I'm probably jumping around quite a bit here, but like now, as someone who's had a lot of experience as a artist manager, basically, is what I am, that is so important. Like every piece of work that people put forward in any, whether you're doing 2D animation, 3D animation, FX, comping even, what they give you is like their idea and how they've interpreted the shot, and you know then to get feedback and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's rough. Like
Yeah.
that's a really hard position to be in
Yeah.
day to day. Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around a lot. So we were in uni. I tell you what, I graduated uni was fab, loved it, found it really tricky to get into the actual animation industry. So when you and I met, I was working at HPC Wales, which was a supercomputing company, which I was their creative assistant. I could only use like 3 shades of red and 3 shades of grey, white and black. And that was like what I could work with for all of the sort of social media and like learning materials and stuff. And but it was a whole year of me trying to get into the industry. And it got to the point where I was at HPC Wales and I was like, oh, I'm not going to get a job in the industry. My backup plan was to train and be a teacher, like an art teacher, because I loved school. Yeah, I thought this is great. And I actually had a non-conditional offer to join a teaching course. And I remember telling my friend, she was a year above me in uni, so she'd already got into the industry. And she was just like, don't do that. Like, don't give up yet.
Yeah.
Let me talk to the studio that I'm at and see if they've got anything for you. So she did. And I went in there to do an animation test on a TV show using
Okay.
this software called Toon Boom. Oh, it was a disaster. It was so bad. Oh, it was just awful. I'd never used it before. Like in theory,
Right.
I could have done it, but like these rigs were really complicated because it was a proper show. Like it wasn't just like, here's a rig I made at uni. It's really simple. It was like a
Yeah.
proper thing.
Oh.
And I remember sitting there for ages doing like this really shonky walk cycle. And then I did something and it crashed and I lost like 4 hours worth of work.
No.
And I just remember the animation lead coming over to me being like, how's it going? And I was like, I'm gonna cry. And I had a nice talk with the producer afterwards, and I was just like, listen, I would really love to be a runner or a production assistant if you've got that.
Yeah.
The test did not go well, and he was like, tell you what, we do need a production assistant, so come in for a trial for a week,
Okay.
which I did,
Mhm.
and then they kept me on from the trial.
Oh, okay. So that was a bait, was it?
That was Bait Studio, yes. Bait Studio and their sister animation studio, Clothcat Animation.
In
Yes.
the weird, very
The, the Glowworks
Glowworks. Yeah.
in
The
Cardiff
building,
Bay.
the worst designed building in Cardiff
The
for a
one that
while.
looked like a book on its own.
Just
Just big,
standing in the middle of the bay, just sort of
literally.
upright with very bad air conditioning and no windows. I think was.
Oh, it was nothing but
Oh,
windows.
nothing but windows. Yes, but none of them
Yeah.
could open. Is that right?
No, you couldn't open any of them. It was torture. We got sent home because it was too cold. We also got sent home when it was too hot. It's just like not a good
Yeah.
plan for building. But yeah, so that's how I got in there. All thanks to my friend Bryony. Props to Bryony. And I was there for about 5 years, moving from project to project.
Doing production assistant the whole time?
I was only production assistant at Bait,
Oh, okay.
which was like VFX, like Casualty, a couple of films, that kind of live action.
Hmm.
And then I got the production coordinator job at
Okay.
Cloth Cat, which was all their. They did a couple of preschool 2D animated series for like CBBS and Milkshake, and then we did the Raymond Briggs film Ethel and Ernest,
I
which
don't
was
think I
a
saw
big
that.
deal. Oh, it's
Oh.
very sad.
Oh, okay.
Don't watch it with the girls.
I won't.
Um, we know like the Snowman and Father Christmas.
Yes,
That's
yes.
Raymond Briggs. And
Oh, the name was. I was like, I know this. What do I know the name? I know the name. I know. I just
yeah,
can't think of it. Oh, I'll maybe I did watch that actually. Why would
it's
that?
about his parents. It's Ethel and Ernest, his parents, how they met, and it's
Oh,
a
okay.
beautiful, like hand-drawn 2D animated film. And I was the color coordinator on it because you had to literally color every single frame digitally, not with cell, but still coloring every frame. So I'd like dish out all the work and then I'd do a shot myself because it was so much fun.
Phrases like production coordinator, production assistant. I guess
What does
to
it
I have a
mean?
rough idea what that means, and obviously you lived in that world, but sort of what's the day to day or a day life of production?
When you're on the production side, you're not an artist. You're either head of a department or like the head or the whole show. You'd be making sure everyone's got work to do and like making sure everyone knows what their deadlines are, facilitating notes, like communicating changes and all that kind of stuff, delivery, working with clients, making sure they know what they want and that the artists know what they want, and it's just facilitating the whole thing really. But when you've got like an assistant that's sort of entry level, you're basically a runner, you're doing the grunt work. And then coordinator's a little step up. Coordinator's like still a fair amount of grunt work, but it's working more with the artists and understanding what the creative process is super important, I think, as
Okay.
a production person. You can't come to it like, like my boyfriend who's an accountant,
Hmm.
sure he could probably pass information and like communicate deadlines and stuff, but it's like understanding how software works and like having empathy towards the artists putting their work out there and getting really shitty feedback, that kind of stuff. Like it's more of a soft touch.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. You need
Um,
that the person the interpersonal skills that don't come naturally to I guess some of the roles that management roles would
mhm,
need that more. Yeah, you need that more softer touch as part of it,
mhm.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting into the minutiae of stuff, and it's very detailed, focused, a coordinator. And then me being a senior coordinator is like, yeah, you should probably be a production manager, but you're doing this job right now, so you're a senior one. And then above a coordinator, you'd have like it depends how big the studio is. If you had a supervisor, they're doing bidding and scheduling and, all of the money stuff and crewing up and like the big picture stuff. And then the coordinator would be like, here's these shots that you're working on, here are the notes, here's the brief, here's the director feedback, like that kind of stuff. That's what I was doing at Cloth Cat. I'd been there for a while and I wanted to shake it up a bit. It was after my dad had passed away and I had a really awful breakup, and I was just like, I'm going to shake things up a bit. Let's move to London. I applied for a job first. I'm not like one of those crazy artists that just move to the city and find work and, everything
I'll be
works out.
fine. It will be okay.
Yeah. Like that's definitely not the way production people think, that's for sure. So no, I applied for a job at DNEG Features. DNEG is a huge VFX house in London. They do like the Marvel films, like Disney films, like whole shebang. They were the big boys. But they'd started a new feature animation like division. and they crewed up the most amazing crew of people, all from Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, Sony, people that like couldn't break that glass ceiling at those studios because people were already in those positions. Do you know what I mean? So I got the job there, which was really great. And I tell you why I did. It's because the guy who was interviewing me was this lovely, lovely man called Crosby Clies. How cool is that name?
Oh, what? His first name was Crosby.
His first name's Crosby,
Oh,
second
okay.
name Clies,
Nice. Okay.
and he was the production manager at the time on Ron's Gone Wrong at DNEG, and he'd come from Pixar. And on my CV, I'd put that I'd worked for a summer in Disney World in the parks. And he was like, "Oh my God, my partner did that summer internship." And I was like, "Oh my God." And blah, 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 blah. You're just talking about that for the majority of the interview.
That definitely says a lot about interviews that they don't. Maybe it's changed in school now because I remember when I was in school, the interview was very much about you've got to have your progress report, you've got to have your black book that's got your record of achievement and all of this stuff in there, and you go into the wider world with your record of achievement. And you're like, "Will you give me a job, please?" And they're like, "What is that in your hand? What have you
Put your
got?"
sacks away.
What, I don't care about whether or not you got the 100-meter swimming certificate. Put it away. But yeah, then when you actually get into work and you start having interviews and having these conversations with people, you realize it's way more just about you as a person and selling yourself from
Do
a
they want to work with you? Do they want
yeah
to come to work and see you
yeah
5 days a
yeah
week?
like you the qualifications on paper will probably get you through the door, but in the interview you really should be talking about anything but those qualifications
Hmm.
because they're kind of like the people that you're sitting in an interview room with. They've seen your qualifications, they know about that. They talk about your experience and the work you've done, but you really need to have that bit more of a jazz kind of vibe. Um,
Amazing. I'm using that in my next interview. I'll learn the sax and I'll take that with me.
do it, do it. Oh, imagine that if you walked into an interview. You see all these things on LinkedIn, like, oh, Steve Jobs used this one job hack that, or the whole. You heard about the thing with the coffee cup?
No, I heard the thing about he wore the same thing every day.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if this was Steve Jobs or someone else actually, but what he used to do in an interview situation would be like he'd always give the person a drink, whether it was tea, coffee, water, whatever, he'd always give them a drink. When the person finished the interview, if they took the cup with them and were like, "Oh, what do you want me to do with the cup? Do you want me to put this in the sink? What do you want me to do with this?" Then he would be like, he'd consider them for the job. But if they just walked away and left it on the table, expecting someone else to clean up after them, then he'd be like, that person's out.
I would totally do that. Wouldn't you though? Like, oh wow,
Well, I don't know. I think,
that's good to know.
yeah, there's these like subtle cues that some people like. I don't know how true any of it is. Like, I'm sure a lot of it's just absolute nonsense that gets reposted on LinkedIn. But yeah, you sort of see these things and you're a bit like, what? No, that didn't happen. Surely not.
It sounds kind of like that red flag when you're on a date with someone. See how they treat the waiter or the waitress, and if they treat them like crap, then they're a crap person. So that was a really good interview with Crosby, and I got the job, and I moved to London, and that
Mhm.
was a really great year. And that was a full CG feature, like blockbuster film, and that was the first kind of thing like that I'd ever worked on, and I was the layout coordinator. That kind of means, I don't know how much you know about film. Like you probably know a lot about film production, but they start with a script, then they go to storyboard, and then they do layout. The layout we were doing rough layout, which is basically pre-visualization. Have you heard about previs?
Yeah, I have, but I think people who are listening maybe, yeah, gonna go into some of the details.
So previs, I saw something going around Twitter like a couple of weeks ago, being like, Marvel make the film one time all the way through in CG, and it's like, no, that's previs, where they pre-visualize the film in really shonky, quick 3D, because it's easier and cheaper to make. And you can do your camera moves in there, you can change camera lens. It tells you a lot of information about what the shot will actually look like when they go out with the actors on the sets and they film it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot cheaper to have one person with, or some people
Just
3D
making
model
it in
than
exactly.
paying Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds to stand around on set for a whole day while they perfect the.
Yeah. And test it out. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so we do that in CG as well.
Mhm.
And it's basically the first pass at the film. So the cinematographer can get the camera work working right. The directors are like, yeah, this all looks great. And then you replace that previs with proper layout, which brings in all the final sets. You bring in all of the character rigs and all of the props and all of that kind of stuff that then goes to animation. And it is made to move. So that's what I was doing on Ron's Gone Wrong, and it was a huge learning curve for me to go from 2D preschool series, which were like 5 minutes long. The animator would animate the shot, they'd hit render, you'd get an image sequence, and I'd drop it in the cut, and that shot was done. But when it's CG, we do the layout, and then it goes to animation, and then it goes to texturing, and then it goes to cloth effects, and then it goes to lighting, and then it gets rendered, and then it's the final shot. So it's very complicated, and it was a huge learning curve. There was lots of tears, lots of late nights. But I loved all the people I worked with. I worked with a guy who animated on Anastasia. Really cool people you're working with, and you're like, what? You were working on these films when I watched them when I was 5. Like, it's
Yeah,
mad. So that was really great. And then we had lockdown.
of course. Yeah, COVID
So
happened.
COVID did happen. I'd been in London for a year, and then lockdown happened. I'd started in the January, I think, of 2019. So I had all of 2019. We had the most amazing Christmas party in Madame Tussauds in London,
Okay.
which was wild. I've got crazy pictures of me with Judi Dench
Nice.
and Shrek, just like wasted. Are they real? Who knows? And yeah, lockdown hit, and we finished Ron's Gone Wrong in lockdown. So I went home to my mom's house because I was living in a flat share with a couple, and they both got furloughed. One of them worked in a gin distillery, and the other one was the photographer. So they couldn't work. They were just like getting drunk and doing extracurricular substances in the middle of the night slash like 4 in the morning, and I we were in crunch on this film, and it was really stressful, so I left and I went back to Mam's in the lovely valleys to wait out the pandemic and finish the film. Yeah, we did a lot of stupid hours on that, like weekends towards the end, just working until like 10 o'clock at night, doing all that kind of stuff just to get it across the line.
Was the amount of hours that you were doing towards the end intensified because of COVID and remote working, or was it just like that's production, and towards the end there's always just this bit of a mad rush?
Yeah, there's always a mad rush at the end. We call it crunch. I think like the 2D shows, they would only have like you'd be doing an hour or two of overtime just to finish off something for the deadline, and that's pretty groovy. But yeah, for feature films, it can get quite hairy. And I think everyone working from home was the only reason we got it done. I think if people had still been lugging themselves into central London every day for that production at the end, I think it would have gone months and months and months longer than it did. But I was very lucky that I could still do my job and get paid during that whole period. And when that finished, which was a really great sense of achievement. Like when that film first came out, because it was going to get distributed by Fox, but then was it Disney bought Fox?
I think Disney bought Fox, yeah.
Or whoever was initially going to distribute it got bought out.
Right.
So yes, Disney, because Disney is on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a whole thing of being like, they're going to shut us down, but we'd already made half the film. So they were like, yeah, we'll have it. We'll take
Okay.
What's Gone Wrong. Sure, you guys finish it off. But then I rolled very nicely onto their next film, which is out, but I cannot find it anywhere.
Oh.
And it's called Under the Boardwalk. And it is another CG feature
Mm-hmm.
about crabs on the Jersey Shore,
Okay.
and it's a musical.
Okay.
And do you know what, right? It's really good. It is, it's really funny.
I'm gonna
It's,
hunt this down.
I think it's on Paramount Plus, you see,
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
nobody has Paramount Plus. It did do like a short cinema release in the US, but it didn't do it here. It's a really funny film. It's got Bobby Cannavale in it. It's got Michael Cera and bloody the guy Russell Brand is the bad guy in it. But
Oh.
they may have redubbed him, do you know? Because he was nowhere on the trailers and he was not on the poster either. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, I rolled onto that project, which was super fun. It was very tricky because they promoted me to FX supervisor, and that's like special effects. And this film being based on the beach in Jersey Shore is lots of sand, lots of water, rain, like that's all effects. That's all the department I was working in. And with the promotion, that meant crewing up, scheduling, bidding, forecasting all of the work and all that kind of stuff. I think I did a good job. They were really happy with me on it. But with that promotion to supervisor, I had a coordinator. So I was no longer the coordinator. I was now the supervisor. Day to day, I would not look at footage at all or, any shots whatsoever. And I was just living in spreadsheets and schedules and numbers, basically. And even though it was really interesting and it was good to get that experience, and I don't think I screwed it up too bad, I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I was so stressed. There was so much pressure because, they're just like, watch the storyboards. Tell us how many days you think all this work is going to take.
Oh, yeah. My least favorite conversation, estimating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Just.
And I made this crazy spreadsheet that actually Ben made for me because he's an Excel wizard in the Gothis. Um, a goth wizard in his gothis doing his Excel wizardry. He's not actually a goth. But anyway, yeah, it was amazing where we had every single shot and then we had like every single type of effects you could have. And I just put an X against each effects on each shot. And then that was all like linked to an amount of hours work. So then by the end of the thing, we'd been through the whole bloody film, me and my supervisor, my like artist second half, if you know what I mean. And then you'd have a number for how many days for each shot and each type of effect, and then we could construe that into, oh, we need this many artists who can do these things, and this is how many days it's going to take, and here's how much it's going to cost.
I mean, that seems super interesting, but I could see how it's not as enjoyable as being hands-on with the actual
With the shots.
with the shots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because animation is what I love. I
Mhm.
love film, and I love the creative process. Like as a coordinator, you're well in that creative process. And if you're working with a good team, if you're working with a good director, like they will take everyone's opinion. And I've luckily I've never worked with a director who sort of treats you like part of the furniture.
Okay.
They'll always listen to whoever's got something to say, a suggestion or a funny joke, or if you're like, oh, that feels a bit weird,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, like the director's making this film not only for themselves but for everyone to like. And even if like you may be just the production coordinator or just a assistant, but you're also the audience. Everybody's opinion is like film is so subjective. If you've got a good director, they should be listening to every voice that they're hearing about the work. Otherwise, they can get really blinkered, and you end up with something really weird.
I think that's why they say director's cuts are either amazing or terrible because it's very very it's
Yeah,
either the director either had an amazing vision or was very very tunneled into something that was a bit odd.
totally. I was totally overwhelmed, like totally overworked. You're just sort of hoping that everything you've planned pans out and you don't cost the company loads of money. You don't, yeah, like make a total dud plan. And I wasn't even looking at the film all that much. And it was just not as enjoyable for me. So even though I was making more money and I had a higher credit, yeah, I was like, I just want to be a coordinator again. And then that's when I saw the job for Chicken Run at Aardman. I was living in London at the time. We were halfway through Under the Boardwalk, and leaving a show halfway through, especially when you're like someone who's running a department, is frowned upon. They don't like the industry is kind of like, oh, they're a quitter. They always leave you in the lurch at some point during the show because it is hard to try and transfer 7 months of narrative of what's happened. Like that is a hard thing to pass on. But I mean, when Chicken Run 2 comes up, you apply for it.
You're not going to turn it down, are you?
No, and I was missing family, and I was
Mm.
over in London, but all my friends are in like I had friends over there, but like the good crew were in Cardiff and then in the valleys, and my mum's there, my grandparents are there, and an opportunity to work in the industry in Aardman, back closer to home, like had to go for it. And then I got it. I totally cried when I had to tell my producer I was leaving.
How did they take it? What was
They were
the?
great.
Yeah.
Like they were so great because it was still like we were halfway through the production,
Hmm.
so it wasn't like the worst point to leave. It's not like I was leaving during crunch or anything like that. And the lady who replaced me had just finished Spider-Verse 1. So she was a baller and like she knew exactly she was more than capable. Better than me, but no doubt. Because I was basically just treading water the whole time. So yeah, they were really great and I explained that it was closer to home and it was Aardman, which was a dream job and they were just really nice about it.
Oh, I mean, that's good. That's really great of them to take that into consideration and not be dicks about it. And if you'd sort of gone, I'm stepping up, I'm going for a job which is higher than the role I'm currently in, that can definitely seem like that's a bit of a dick move because could you not have just seen this out? But to take a sidestep or a step backwards for a valid reason of being closer to family, friends, and home can definitely like I don't feel like anyone could really hold that against you.
No. And they were all lovely people as well. And unfortunately, it's just the thing of this industry that the work is never super duper reliable unless you're like, a freaking CEO or something. You've got to get the work where you can. So they are used to people moving around. But yeah, it's frowned upon not to finish your contract, not to see the whole project out. But they were absolutely great.
So you leave and go to Aardman. One thing that I think, I mean, I don't know if this is just me, but something that I've only come to realize in quite recent years is there's a lot of things that I've only come to realize in quite recent years. So I feel like this is one of the less stupid things. But it's a film it's been released by Disney. Was supposed to be released by Fox, let's say. How does a company in London end up working on that? Like, I feel like it's something that I don't know. It's that process of a production house, a effect studio bid on this sort of work? Like, do you work in conjunction with other agencies, or does someone come up with, we've got an idea for a film, let's go to you guys and you make the whole thing from start to finish? Like,
Hmm. So Ron, I can tell you about Ron. So Ron's Gone Wrong was actually a British IP story. So this company called Locksmith Animation, who were the client for Ron's Gone Wrong, and it was their script, their storyboard, like it was they owned it, their IP. The ladies who created Locksmith are two ladies called Sarah Smith and Julie Lockhart, who both came from Aardman. So Sarah Smith directed Flushed Away, and Julie Lockhart is a producer. Her name's been on like Curse the Way Rabbit and all the Aardman features in the last like 20 years something. So they spun off their own company called Locksmith Animation, and then they worked with either the scriptwriter, somebody who worked on Shrek for sure, and they wrote the script. Oh, and Borat, that's right. They had a
and
scriptwriter
Borat.
from, yeah, so random, but they had the script, and then they pitched their script with artwork to Fox. And they were like, yo, Fox, we've got this really great idea for a film. We've also got like two others. Are you interested? Let's like kick out some banging British made animation. And we've got this partner in DNEG Features because remember I said that DNEG were originally a VFX house. They wanted to spin off like a new little features avenue. They were like, we've got a production house ready to go. You know, we're the brains, they're the muscle going to make the film. Do you want to buy in and distribute these films for us? So Fox were like, yeah, these three films sound great. Let's have them. And then they put the money into it, and then Locksmith paid DNEG. So Locksmith are the ones making it all happen, getting the money from Fox and paying DNEG to make their film.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think it's the business of film is something that it's kind of like an unseen conundrum because like people think you see you see the names pop up in the opening credits and you're just like I don't know what all these logos mean, but I
What do they
presume
do? Yeah, yeah. Why are there so many
like why
logos?
are there so many things? Like if you watch anything made by Film 4, there's like 10 different production companies involved in every single thing, and you're like
It's all the money.
I
It's
don't
all the money.
yeah, I always find that really interesting. It's like the technicalities and the minute detail that these things go through in the process. I guess like the commercial side of making films, making TV.
Where
It's
does the money come from? Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
where does the money come from? And then distribution. I feel like that's such a weird thing because like I was chatting to someone and he was saying like I want to watch a film and it's not on Netflix, it's not on Amazon Prime, it's not on Paramount Plus. Is that like I can't watch it anywhere? I'm just going to download it. Like I'll download it illegally because I can't pay to watch it. Like I want to pay to watch it, but I cannot
Mm,
physically give anyone my money to
that's
pay to watch
interesting.
this.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess it's on DVD somewhere, but who
like
has a DVD player anymore?
yeah, exactly. Like he lives up. So okay, he can't get access to that film. It's like, well, what am I going
Mm,
to do? Like, I can't. I just want to watch the film.
it is weird, isn't
happy
it?
to give money for it, but I can't.
Somebody put it on their streaming service and I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will. I pay for a month subscription to that streaming service to watch that film, but just I can't do it. Yeah, so the whole distribution rights of stuff, yeah, it is bonkers when you think about it because there is no Spotify for film, and it's because of the complex ownership and distribution and territories. Who distributes things in different, in different locations, and who has the rights to watch it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true. I was talking to someone at work today who was telling me that they keep getting requests for like Shaun the Sheep series 5 in
okay,
like another country that haven't had it before.
right,
Like and that's just broadcasting services being like, oh, what should we put on the 7 o'clock slot
yeah,
coming up? Let's get a new series. How about Shaun the Sheep series 7 or whatever? It is really weird, isn't it? I've never thought about it because they're just buying content.
yeah. It's such an opaque kind of industry that I think a lot of people don't really know about, but it's so important to the way that we watch and enjoy film and TV.
Yeah,
Um,
especially these days.
yeah,
But the whole thing with Locksmith they had that 3 film deal, and like, DNEG were like, sweet, this is going to be 3 film, like, roster of work for us to build up a really great crew from all those big studios like Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks. And then we're going to make these 3 films with Locksmith for Fox. And like, that's going to be a great starter portfolio for DNEG feature animation. And then Fox were like, oh no, we're being bought by Disney. And then Disney were like, oh no, we're going to cut those 2 other films. You'll finish Ron's Gone Wrong. We'll have that one, but we're not going to fund the other 2. So then Locksmith then had to go and find punters for the other films that Disney cut, which I think they did, and I think they are in production now. Actually, I think one of them is coming out this Christmas. It's called That Christmas,
that Christmas.
and it's animated. It is written by Richard Curtis.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Yeah,
I will definitely
I'm
keep an
excited
eye
to
out for
see
that.
it.
Yeah, I'll yeah, I'm sure the kids will love it. Probably they love Christmas.
I've been told it's like Love Actually, but for kids, and hopefully less problematic.
Yeah, I've seen a lot recently about how problematic Love actually was, and it really like when you look back at it. Is it Andrew Lincoln's character, the one who
The
holds
one
up?
who stands out
Yeah,
beside the door with the cups.
yeah.
What was he thinking?
But it's like he goes to the wedding and films only her, and then turns up and basically harasses her outside the house. Like,
And then what's his face falling in love with the lady who can't speak English. That whole thing is a bit weird, I suppose.
yeah, the prime minister. the secretary.
And her being called like the chubby girl, and it's like, shut up,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. That
Oh
Marty
man,
McCutcheon, wasn't it, and Hugh Grant. Yeah, lots. I mean, looking back at it, I used to think of that as being a really charming,
me too.
lovely film that I remember fondly from childhood as being one of the only kind of romance films and also Christmas films that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And as I've got older, my childhood's been ruined.
I mean, classic all the time, eh?
Oh, who'd have thunk it? Who'd have
Don't
thunk
get me
it?
started on J.K. Rowling.
Oh, God.
Brutal.
There's a lot of people with a lot of regrets about weird tattoos there, I feel.
Very true.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
so
wait.
Aardman, we ended up. So you got the job at
Yes,
Aardman.
Chicken Run 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, that job came up as a VFX production coordinator. So like I said, that was a side step.
Hmm.
It wasn't so much of a backward step because Aardman do things very differently. They're not as big a studio as
Okay.
somewhere like DNEG was, where, every single stage of the pipeline had like three production people,
Hmm.
whereas we were a smaller size production at Aardman. So I had Kirsty, who was my VFX producer, and then I was the coordinator
Hmm.
running the department. Do you know what I mean? So it was busy times, but oh my god, it was amazing. Walking into the studio, I feel like I need to probably watch what I say, but walking into the studio, it's just a warehouse.
Okay.
Like it's just a warehouse in North Bristol in the industrial estate, and they've been there for 20 years. That's where they filmed the first Chicken Run, and I was very underwhelmed. I was like, this amazing animation studio that just basically was there throughout my entire life, and like everyone, like all over the world, are like Aardman humor is like the gold standard. Where we've got in the canteen, we've got a signed picture from Miyazaki. We've got a signed picture from Matt Groening from The Simpsons. Like, and they're all like, Aardman, whoa. And yeah, it's just like a leaking warehouse. But what we make there is stunning.
It is. It is.
And you're walking around and the sets that are ginormous and everything's handcrafted and
Oh, of
the
course.
chickens are there and they're like this big and oh, it's just so cool. Like total dream come true.
Yeah, I can imagine because there's so much. There's so much history. Like are some of the like the older sets. Any of those still exist, or are they like stored away?
There was a fire.
Oh, I
So
remember hearing about this actually. Yeah.
yeah, so Aardman, they filmed the first Chicken Run at Aztec West Studio, where we're at now. But like they did those sort of the commercial stuff, and when they did Morph, like their really early projects, the things that sort of got them famous, and Wrong Trousers and A Grand Day Out and all that stuff. That was down in centre Bristol, in a place called the Banana Warehouse, and they filmed all those early films there. And they had a storage facility, a storage unit there, and that burnt down. So they lost a lot of like the original sets in that fire, which is really sad. But they do keep a lot of anything from like recent productions. Like if you go to the new Gasferry Road building in the centre of Bristol, they've got like all the sets from Were Rabbit and all the Shaun the Sheep stuff. They've got a gigantic Shaun the Sheep in the lobby, which is very cute. So yeah, they've got a whole archive section now. So they do keep a lot of that stuff, and it's not an Aztec. It's all at Gasferry, the schmoozy building, I like to call it.
Less leaky.
Less leaky,
Yeah.
purpose built. From the
Okay.
top down, it's an A.
Oh, nice.
Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
that's fun.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, you've started a Dawn of the Nugget, Chicken Run 2, Dawn of the Nugget.
yeah.
And yeah, what was that like? Like, what was the sort of living the childhood dream come true?
Mm.
You know, was it overwhelming or
It's funny how used how quickly you get used to the dream. Do you
okay?
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yes, when you walk around, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, There's Mrs. Tweedy. Oh my God. There's Ginger. Oh, I've just seen Peter Lord walking down the corridor. I've just seen Nick Park walking down the corridor. You know, the big guys, and you're just sort of like, oh yeah, and they smile, and then they wander up because everyone's so. That's the thing about Aardman is everyone is so down to earth. Like I'm working with the people who are credited on Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave, and they're still there doing their thing. It's what they've been doing their whole life. It is really great, and I do often have to remind myself to stop and reflect on where I'm at and what I'm doing. And when I was at uni, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, I love Aardman," blah, blah, blah. And I've got, the Art of Aardman book on my shelf that I bought when I was in uni. And it's like, I'm there and I'm good. My name's in the credits of that film now. And that is very cool. And actually, claim to fame, if you go to Netflix and you watch Chicken Run, in the first like 5 minutes, there's that whole sequence where Molly, the daughter of Rocky and Ginger, is growing up. And there's that really sweet scene where she's getting older. And it ends with her up a tree looking out over the lake towards the landscape. There are some birds flying in the sky in that shot. And I animated those birds on my iPad on the couch because it was literally like the last month or two of production. And the director Sam Fell was like, "I'd really love some birds in this shot, like just as a focal point to like draw your eye to where we're supposed to be looking." And Kirsty, my boss, was like, "Oh, bloody hell, we haven't scheduled a 2D animator to do that. Like, we'll have to try and find someone, schedule them in, and, at the budget, la la la." And I was like, "Can I have a go? Like, let me try." So I did my first pass, and we comped them into the shot, and we showed them to Sam. And I was sitting there, like, because I'm taking the notes in this review, like normal. He watched them, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, really nice. Maybe they could just start a bit bigger and end a bit smaller." And I was like, "Cool. Any other notes? Like, you're happy with them, how they look?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, they're great. Just make them a bit bigger at the beginning." And I was like, "Sam, I just need to tell you that I did these, and are you sure that you want them in the film? And like, is this okay?" And he was like, "Oh my God, well done." So I can still animate. That degree is just paid for itself right there.
Yeah, well, I would take that story to the grave, to be honest. If I've managed to get something into a film,
Yeah.
it's just
So
I
that was
can
pretty cool.
I can just imagine though it must be such a you know you there must be a point when you sort of like bogged down in it, or you having like a really crap day at work. You're just like, oh, this is really like stressful, blah, blah, blah. Like just having a a bad day, that you've just got to stand back and think, I'm living the dream. Like,
Yeah, living the dream. And we're not saving any lives here. Like, we're making a film.
yeah,
No one's gonna die if I'm a bit shit today. But there's other pressures. And like you said at the beginning of the call, you put so much on yourself when you're really passionate about what your day job is. You do, and you put so much into it. Not the people who don't love their day job don't put much into it, but it is like another piece of you that you give. Um, so yeah, I do try to take a step back and pinch myself and just, you know, go talk to that person and be like, "How did you do that in Wrong Trousers? Like, tell me how you achieved that shot." I found out the other day that on the Were Rabbit, there's a whole section in the middle where it's really foggy, and the Were Rabbit's wandering around all the gardens and the churchyard, and they literally filled the stop frame animation studio with a smoke machine to shoot those shots. And like, you just wouldn't do that today. You just do it in CG. So that's like that's the cool stuff. You just got to ask them. I need to remind myself to just be like, "What's your favorite thing about that film?" Or "Tell me a funny story about."
having those conversations and getting to know the people behind the films that you love so much. I just think it's amazing to sort of hear that you came out of university and struggled to find something and ended up working in a not particularly great job. Like a lot of people do when they come out of university, they don't end up doing exactly what they want to do. But then to sort of go from that to mucking up an animation interview and then going, now I'm going to go into production to now working for probably one of the best known animation studios in the UK. Yeah, a real great story of hard work and, you know,
Yeah. I've been very lucky. I think that is the main thing. Like work can be really dodgy and whatever. I just mean, lining up and like now that we've had the actors strike and the scriptwriters strike, like we're seeing that in the animation industry right now. Like work is really volatile, and people are getting let go and finding it really difficult to find work. So I've been super duper lucky that I've been consistently employed, and the only moves that I've made have been because I've chosen to. So fingers crossed it keeps on going that way.
fingers crossed. Yeah, of course. Because, yeah, I didn't, like, I mean, they're much more pertinent to the work of animation studio. But I don't know if you listened to the one with Tony about 3 weeks, 3 episodes ago. He does a lot of work on sets, so fibrous plastering
Mm.
for film sets. And I hadn't considered that the actors and writers strike would be impacting his work massively
Oh
because
yeah,
there are no sets to build, there are no
there's no
animations to
films
do,
to make.
there's no films to make. Like catering staff, costume makers. There's a, such a wide industry of people, and people are sort of sat there going, "Oh, actors, they could afford to strike. What impact does it have? They can go on strike for months and months and months." Yeah, but it's not the actors that are really getting affected by this. It's the people who work in film and the people who
Hmm.
do this for a living. And yeah, such a more wide ranging issue than that sort of like what people were focusing on, which was the actors and the writers.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all super important, but yeah, it has really thrown things up in the air.
mm,
But hope it is settling down now a bit, I
that's good.
think.
That's good.
Well, at least it will do in the future.
Well, I think we've sort of covered off the story of how you ended up doing that and what it
Yeah,
is
pretty
you do
much.
now. I keep asking this question. People usually give a similar sort of answer, but if you could do it all over again, is there anything you'd like to do differently, or is there anywhere else you would have wanted to have ended up?
Oh, it is a good question though. So I sometimes I wish, like when I have my really stressful days and I'm feeling really overwhelmed, and obviously I'm the one saying, "Hey guys, here's all the things I need you to get through this week." I would love to be the artist and
Okay.
be like, I come into work today. Here's all the shots I need to do.
Yeah.
I just work through my little task list and then I go home and I don't have to think about anything else. And it's just me and what I'm doing. So I have definitely had that vibe of, oh, do I wish that I'd pursued the artist role over the production role? But honestly, I do think production does suit my personality better. If we were really going to take it back and be like, what would you change? I would want to be on the stage.
Okay.
I wish I really wish that I'd gone to like singing school or something. But, again, that's not really that's just as volatile a a lifestyle to get a job and a persistent paycheck and all that kind of stuff. And with that, you'd be like judged on how you look and getting older and all that kind of stuff.
Far more critical and hard to sort of because it's not just about your style, which you could potentially improve, but yeah, it would be it's comments about your appearance and
Yeah, I take it back actually. I changed my mind.
yeah, not that anything but that. That sounds
Mm,
terrible.
yeah, looking back, I don't know if I would change anything. I'm really happy with where I've ended up.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and that's great. It sounds like you've landed in exactly where you want to be and exactly where you should be based on the work that you've done and where you want to be. So, yeah.
Just the working on the Wallace and Gromit film that we're on now, like that is a real pinch me. Even though Chicken Run is amazing, like a Wallace and Gromit, I'm working with Nick Park. Who knows if they're going to do another one? And even if they do another one, will we be working with Nick Park? Because he's probably going to want to retire soon. So
Yeah.
I do feel very, very lucky, and I'm super stoked most days.
I I've just loved hearing all about film production, the business of making films, your journey from studio to studio and ending up exactly where you want to be. So yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I hope it was all right.
It's been great. It's been great. I'll catch up with you soon, mate.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to episode 10. It was a really good fun one to record, and I really hope you enjoyed listening to it as well. Just to clear up one of the things I talked about the coffee cup, it wasn't Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would take you out for a pint as part of an interview rather than asking you questions in a more formal setting. The person who did the coffee cup thing, if you Google it, it turns out the CEO of Zero is the top result. But it would appear that quite a few people do that. So just something to bear in mind if you do go for a job interview. Make sure you take your coffee cup out to the kitchen when you're done. If you've got this far, please consider following, subscribing, whatever platform you're on. It really helps me out if you can sort of get those numbers up. And yeah, please listen back next week where there'll be another episode. Not sure which day it'll be out yet. I've still got to edit it down, but it'll be coming out next week. And yeah, it's a really, really good one, that. So hopefully you'll come back and listen to that. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you want to ask me anything, just drop me an email. I'll put the email address in the show notes. And yeah, we'll hopefully you'll be hearing from me again soon. Cheers, bye.